So the way that you would create content that you can distribute to other users, you would go to catalog and then materials, and then create material.
Okay.
And whoops. Okay, so the first thing we'll do whenever we're creating material is we'll add a title. We'll call this maybe the Blue Earth New Employee Workbook. We can select the material type, and we'll say this is a publication. Provider, you always want to select Blue Earth Renewables. You can add as a description if you want. Pretty much the other stuff in here isn't required. So with regards to the material that we're linking a user to, I know I have this set as a new employee workbook. If I could have this like new employee training video, then I could use this URL link and I could paste the link to that video. If I needed to upload the content, then I choose upload, and this is going to allow me to upload any of these document types, but there's going to be a 50 megabyte limit. So this isn't going to allow you to upload a video such as an MP4. If you wanted to upload a video like that, or if you wanted to link that video as a source, you would need to link the URL. So if you had it uploaded to YouTube or Venmo or any of the other types, you can link to that content here. You can also link to it on your network, but I believe the content could only be linked on or launched on your network if you want to link to a video, let's say in your local network.
Like on SharePoint or something like that.
Right. So, so if we were to do like the new employee handbook, for example, and if I want to upload the material, let's say I want to upload a PDF. I want to point out sometimes there's some confusion around this choose file and upload. This is just for the image if you want to associate an image with this. But this bottom one is where you will upload the actual content. So if I choose, I'm gonna actually upload this lost password document and then click upload. Yeah. Okay, it's not being my friend this morning.
Not even morning.
It's a little too early, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Okay, so the document has been uploaded, and right now the name is Lost Password PDF. So
Yeah.
if I can change this to whatever name I want.
Okay.
And then click the Save Diskette, and it's going to save that document. I can upload more documents, but I usually like to only associate one document per material.
Now, target audience, does that, say if I wanted B-Rock, would I put B-Rock in there, or is that kind of, or is there a different thing for the target audience?
Well, there's a different thing. Target audience is something I've never used. I'm not really sure what it would be used for. I guess it's just information that you want to associate. But if we go to availability, let me go down here and click the next button. Availability is where you can select that target audience. So for example, let me discuss availability and what that is. Availability is only going to define who can search for this training. So for example, if you had this new employee workbook document, a user would be able to search through it either through this top search field, or they could go to browse for training and it will be listed. At the very minimum, you need to select yourself. That way, whenever you search for it, it's going to come up in your search whenever you are assigning this document, or whenever you are adding this to a piece of training, like a curriculum.
Okay, so if I created a B-Rock group, which I'm an owner of, if I put in B-Rock, would that, I guess that's a division thing, right? Is there?
Yeah, so
Okay.
did you create a manual group? So you said it's B-Rock?
Yeah, at least I attempted B-Rock. B-E-R?
OC or OK?
That's it there. Basically, Blue Earth Remote Operations Center.
Yeah, so if I click add and done, then this is only going to be available for those users to search for it. It's not going to assign it. If you want to assign it, it's a separate process.
Yeah, and I think I think that last video that Kristen showed me to, you went through it with Blue Earth there. And
yeah, the learning assignment tool.
Yeah. And as I say, I'm trying to also set up, when I saw the curricula there, it kind of got me going, because there's, I just brought 2 new operators on shift. So I went through training, but, I'm trying to get this orientation stuff up and going, right? So that's what I'm trying to develop right now. So I've created a B-Rock curricula thing, and to kind of help me train these people. And then plus 2, with us being in the regulatory stuff, having training, renew every year is going to be very important, right? So it's kind of, yeah. Yesterday was a MarTech, definitely good learning MarTech day. So.
Well, have you, I know you said you wanted training that was going to recur. Have you looked at the certification?
Yeah, because it was in that video there too, right? So I was just going to do it orientation. I would set up one certification for orientation. So I could, once I get that done, that'd be done. But I was setting up a curricula for regulatory, where it might review, so I'm taking some of your NERC training and stuff like that, and applying whatever I feel is appropriate for our control room. And then, if there's anything else that we might want to bring in, specific, ISO, Ontario system stuff and Alberta system stuff, that's where, so I just started doing that one there. So. Yeah.
So there's one thing that I want to point out is that let me look at the structure. Okay, so yeah, you did this right. You have it structured where a user is going to have to complete this section before they can access this section. If you want them to be able to access either section, then you have to have both of these be 1. But if you have this set as a 2, then the user has to finish the first section before they can access the second section. So one thing that's very important is, if you're going to require a user to complete this every year, if you have it in a curriculum, you're going to have to re-enroll them for the individual courses every year, unless you put this into a certification. So
is that a little different than curricula? So certification would be something that I would want.
right. So if we go to,
And see this one right now, the one that I'm trying, like that one that was there, that one was kind of, the intent with that one was I was going to set that one up as one time, you know, once they get through it, they're done their orientation, right? So
right.
basically, if I wanted regulatory, I would then create a certification and
That's
then pick
correct.
courses. Okay.
So if we go to admin and catalog, and I'll go ahead and walk through this on this training video so you'll have it. It's not something that I usually include in the regular training just because it's a little bit more detailed, and with all the other training, I can't quite fit this into an hour.
Yeah.
So if we go to certifications, click on certifications, click on create new. And I'm just going to call this test. Or it's B-Rock, right?
Yeah.
And family, we want to choose Blue Earth Renewables. Category, you can really select anything. I do have categories in here, so if it's like when you're renewing, you can select that. Down here below, if you want users to print a certificate, I always check that.
Okay, so I guess now out of this, since we're kind of here, so if I wanted an orientation certificate that I don't need renewing, I can just leave that.
Yeah, if there's not going to be any type of renewal, so the way renewals work in the system, or the way assignments work in the system for training, a user is going to complete a course. And so, for example, if they complete a course on June 1st, then, or June 1st, 2020, the completion date is always going to be June 1st, 2020. So let's say they complete that course in 2022, the completion date's still going to be June 1st, 2020, unless they receive a new enrollment with that course. Now, so once they receive a new enrollment, then it will put them back into a registered status, and they'll be able to complete that course with a new completion date. So the reason why that's important, if, let's say, for example, if the user does not receive a new enrollment and they complete that training in 2022, and you run a report to see which of your employees have completed training in 2022, they may have completed that training in 2022, but if they never received a new enrollment, it's not going to fall within that report because it's still showing the date of June 1st, 2020. Now, what the certification does, it allows the user to re-enroll into that training without you having to go and re-enroll them manually. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that does. So even if I don't want it renewing, then I can still do it here so they can print a certificate off, right? Or will the curriculum work fine? So if I wanted them to show that the orientation, you come in, you do it once, right? It's okay, your orientation's done.
Mm-hmm.
And like the certificate, then you can print off that, yeah, B-Rock orientation has been completed. But then I don't need to have that one renewing. But then, yeah, if I want regulatory stuff to renew every year, that's where I do the 1 year renewing and automatically. Okay.
Yeah, I will say that the certification module in Cornerstone is one of the last things that hasn't been updated, so it's not quite as intuitive as the other areas like the curriculum builder.
Okay.
And also it doesn't have the filters that are available in like there are with other training object. So if you go to, let me go through this process just so I
Okay,
can,
yeah, sorry.
that's okay. Because I don't want to exit this process, but I'll go back to some of the pros and cons of using this. I'll try to include them while we're in the training. So I'm going to call
Okay.
this safety. And let's say I'm going to have 3 courses in this, and I want all of the courses to be required.
Yeah.
So that means that the user has to complete all 3 of the courses. So we have a minimum of 3, maximum of 3.
Yeah.
We'll add the training items. And I'm going to search for 101. And at first, this is going to be one of the things that's different about using the certification builder. So you see that right now you see all of the MarTech courses, but you also see all the other courses in the system that are usually filtered out that you can't see.
Yeah.
That should be easy with you, just as long as you pick a course that doesn't have MarTech on the beginning. So if you pick a course that has MarTech on the beginning, it means that's a special course for another client that's in the system. So scroll down and click done. And there are my 3 courses. I'm going to go ahead and go to assign credit for these courses. And so another thing you have to do is you have to pick validity. And validity means, so if I assign this training to my users today, validity is going to go back and see, it's going to go back and check a date to see if this user has already completed that training within that date. So for example, if I check the validity box and if I say by certification period expiration date or on the start date, this item is completed within the past 30 days. So if the user has completed any of this training in the past 30 days, it's going to automatically give them credit. If they haven't completed it within the past 30 days, they'll be required to complete it to receive credit within the certification. And I can even go back to, let's say, 6 months or whatever. And if I update it here, then it's going to update all of these 3. But let's say, for example, okay, personal protective equipment, I want to change this. And I want to say this user has to have completed this within the last month. But then these others are still going to be 6 months. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and what's the, and I guess what's the intent behind that option, or like what are we trying to see with that? Like basically just making sure that they do it every 30 days, or within, when they sign, they have like 30 days to complete it?
Well, if you have users in the system that it's just a grace for your users. So if a user gets assigned this and they just completed this training 2 weeks ago, they're going to come back and say, hey, I just completed this training 2 weeks ago and you're making me complete it again. So it's just kind of a grace period to say, you know, if you have completed, whenever this is assigned, if you have completed this in the last 30 days, you're automatically going to receive credit for it.
Okay. Okay, so basically if I reassign this or something like that, or it pops back up again, it just checks to make sure that they've already completed the way they go.
Right.
Okay. Can you pick curricula in this, or do you have to individually pick it? Like, so if I develop a curricula.
Sure. So if I go to add training, it's going to allow me to pick any of these training items. So for example, we had that material item, and we can have and this is your curriculum.
Yeah.
Here's a new employee handbook. So I'm going to go ahead and add those and click done. And so one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add another section, and I'm going to call this orientation. We'll give this 1 credit. And I'm going to move the employee handbook into that. So if I grab these 3 dots, I can drag it into that area, and I can move orientation up to the top.
Okay.
And let's say I want to add another section, and we'll call this my curriculum. I have 1 credit for that. And I'm going to move my curriculum into that. And we'll give a credit to each one of these. So now I have a 3-section certification, and I have a credit assigned for each. And I'm not going to assign any validity to these, but I am going to assign it to the individual courses.
Okay.
So just individual preference. You can do whatever you want here. So I'm going to click next, and it's going to take me to the scheduling page. And this is going to define, we have 4 different ways. So if this is a one-time certification, so it's one and done, we select that. If it's a fixed date, which means it's going to renew on the same date every year, we choose fixed date. Relative means it's going to, like once a user becomes certified, it's going to renew at a specific date relative to the original date. So if the user becomes certified on June 1st, every June 1st, they'll have to recertify. The relative with rolling period means that if a user becomes certified on June 1st, but the next year they become certified on May 1st, then May 1st, the following year, they'll have to recertify. So it's going to be kind of a fluid certification date. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, no, and that's probably very important for regulatory type stuff that, you know, you have to have the training within months or whatever. So
I'm going to choose relative with rolling period. And so there's the initial period, and then there's the renewing period. So I'm going to call this initial period. And period required credits. If I look down here, it's going to show me how many credits are associated with each section. So it's a total of 5. So I'm going to pop 5 in here. And I'm going to check all of these sections, which means that for the user to first become certified within this training, they must complete all 3 of these sections. I'm going to click select. And that's all I have to do with that. The next thing I have to do is select the renewal period. So I click this plus sign, and we'll call this renewal period. And I'm only going to say, okay, whenever a user, whenever they renew, they're only going to have to complete these second 2 items, which are 2 credits. I'm not going to make them do the first manual again. Actually, it's the orientation. I'm not going to make them do the orientation again. And the last thing you have to do is click this calendar, and it's going to have our settings. So when will the user become past due if the training requirements are not completed? We'll say 30 days. And then what is the duration of each period before the user becomes expired? And we'll say this is 1 year. And so if the user hasn't completed this within 30 days, they'll become past due, and this is going to renew every year. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, like with NERC stuff, so basically that could be zero. Can you do minus days in there? Or is that dealt with it? Like, so basically at 11 months, 11, 11 months, basically that's when everyone's kind of got to get that into their period. But that's, you know what I mean? Like basically we need to be done before, midnight of 366 days or whatever. So.
Okay, we can call this, I think we can say this is like 11 months. And they'll become past due after 11 months, and then they'll move into an expiration period after a year.
Okay.
And so for emails, leave this set as system emails. So emails are going to be sent whenever a user enters into, whenever any type of period changes.
Okay, so they'll get an email stating that they need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'll show you what type of emails they'll get.
Ones where they lock them in the chair and they have to complete the training before they leave. Is that possible?
Basically. So we have enrolled in certification. So whenever a user is enrolled in a certification, they'll receive an email.
Yeah.
Certification period expiration. So that's going to, they'll have a reminder 30 days prior to their expiration. Yeah. And they'll have a reminder 1 day after. If they go into an expired status, they'll receive an email. They'll receive an email 30 days before they enter into an expired status. And they'll also receive a period overdue notification.
Okay.
So with the curriculum, like I said, it's kind of a one and done thing. If you want, you can use a curriculum, and we can even turn on certifications for curriculum. So actually, let me go to.
And I guess out of curiosity, like I saw the certification, I see the curriculum. Would it be easier to create a curricula and then pull that over into the certification, or is it just easier to search for the courses in certification and then go that way with it?
Personally, I would not recommend putting a curriculum into a certification, because you're kind of nesting a group of training inside of group of training. So it could be a little, I think it would be a little confusing having like a double nest of training.
Okay.
But I'm looking to see if we have certifications turned on for your learning object. So we can turn on certification. So any type of learning object that someone completes, they'll receive a certification. For example, I can have it turned on for your curriculum. So anytime somebody completes a curriculum, they'll be able to download a certification. Is that something that y'all would want?
That would be up to Kristen. I think, after talking to you, I think I'll stop doing the curriculum and just go into certifications
Okay.
myself, because the biggest thing in the role with the role we do, like there are regulatory issues with some of this stuff. So I think if I set it up so I know the system, it'd be nice to be able to make sure that some of the stuff they repeat every year and stuff like that. So I think I'll kind of lean towards more of setting up the certification programs and having that rolled out into a bunch of different levels type things. So.
Okay. Now there's a couple of different ways that you can assign certification. So if we go to Learning Assignment Tool, certification is the only thing that cannot be assigned through a Learning Assignment Tool.
Okay.
So if you see there's an options button over here and it says certification enrollment, and this will take you to the certification enrollment page. So all we have to do is create proxy enrollment for certification, and we find our, I'm going to sort this by family and click search. And here's our certification. All we have to do is click this, this guy over here.
Yeah.
And we want to select assign and approve certification, and then we select our users. We can also select our group. So if you have your BROC, then we select those, click next, and this is going to list the users in that group.
So out of curiosity, now with me, I need to get on that. I guess basically I need to complete the training myself. So would I actually add myself to this group, even though I'm the owner of it?
Yes, you can add yourself to the group.
Okay. Just so that way, like basically especially the regulatory stuff, because I know I'm going to be, there's a chance that I will be going into that, into the control room, right? I got to make sure that all my training's up to date as well. So.
Right. Yeah. So another way that you can assign certification or through certification management.
Okay.
Certification management, you're not going to be able to complete a certification in certification management. I'm sorry, you're not going to be able, you're not going to be able to create a certification in certification management. This is more to manage enrollments and see who is enrolled within a certification. So for example, here's my certificate. The blue and green icon will allow me to view the users that are enrolled in the certification. The orange icon is going to allow me to add users to the certification. But to create a certification or edit a certification, I have to go through catalog and certifications.
Okay.
And then click the edit icon. Now,
that way I can add courses and
right.
I need to do to, okay.
So I'm going to add you as an owner on this. And what the owner is going to do, I also have you as the training contact. So if anybody had any, if there was anything that needed approval in the system, you would receive an email about that. So a couple of things that could be, so if you, if for example, you have notifications turned on for scheduling. So if I open this, actually, so verification required upon completion for all future periods. So if that's checked, then you would receive an email that you need to verify this for a user. Also, I want to point out in the system, if a user enters into an expired status, the system is not going to automatically move them into an active period. It's going to send them into a pending approval status. And if a user comes to you and says, hey, it says pending approval, or if you see a user and it says pending approval, all you have to do is go to certification management and view manage pending requests, and you'll be able to validate your users. And this is going to go ahead and approve their certification. So And this is only going to work if you're set as the owner and the contact. So I'm
Okay.
going to go ahead and approve these. So any questions about material or certifications or anything else?
No, I think that's good for now. I think basically I just got to get in and start setting things up and playing with it a little bit, and yeah, and go from there. No, I think they should be really good. Like, yeah, no, I appreciate the time today.
Oh, sure, no problem. And I don't want to throw too much at you, but if you ever had a process, let's say you're sending a user to an outside training and you wanted to track that in the system, that can also be tracked within material. So if you ever think you're going to use that and you want to track it within the system and assign it to users and track it within the system, let me know. There's other things that the system can do. It's just, I don't like to throw too much at people because if you're like me, you're going to forget half of it.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think for right now, like, it's not critical for tracking everything, but definitely right. Um, unfortunately, I don't think this was set up quite correctly for us to begin with, and we just got everything thrown at us without really, thinking of the process of, okay, you go through, you hire a new person, right? What do they need to know day one, or within 30 days or 60 days? Okay, so you get that training in front of them. And then then you set up, okay, well, now they're in the seat and they're doing okay, what's the next level they need to know to process, right? And this, setting it up like this in here, I think will help me bring new people on. We set them up in Martech. Hey, here's your assignments created, and away you go, right? And then and so no, I'm looking forward to getting in here and learning a bit and trying to get it set up so it's definitely a little bit more geared towards B-Rock and the operators in there, make it a bit more meaningful. So
Okay, great. Well, it's good to hear. I'm always here if you have any questions or need any help, and just reach out and let me know.
okay, yeah, no, I'm pretty sure there'll be more questions, but right now it's just